Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jared, and this is my channel, Mazda B3K. Today's video is going to be a little different. It's going to be a small engine repair. I normally don't film this sort of thing, but figured I'd try it, see if you guys like it, see if you find some interest in it. My trimmer, the fuel lines have turned to mush, so they need to be replaced. Without further ado, let's get started. This is my trimmer. It's a Husqvarna 128LD, and it wouldn't start when I went to pull it out for the first time this year. And I did some troubleshooting, and what I found, or what I noticed, was that the fuel lines had basically fallen apart, both the intake and the return. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we're going to start taking it apart so you can kind of clearly see the problem, and then we'll go through what we got to do to fix it. Alright, so to get better access to the fuel lines, which they run between here and here, but further back, we need to take off this cover. One thing to do before you get started, which I just remembered, is you need to empty out your fuel tank. So you're going to have to rotate the trimmer all over the place after you take the carburetor off and whatnot. So it'd be a good idea to have your tank empty so you're not spilling fuel everywhere. Let me go do that and I'll be right back. Alrighty, so I went ahead and I drained the tank, and I found the best way to do it is just tilt the... First take this out and it just slides right out. Like so. And then you take this and just tilt the whole trimmer directly back on its butt right here on the magneto. And then that's how you drain the tank. And, don't do this inside. You're going to have lots of gasoline vapors. It's going to stink. If you spill gas, like I did, it's going to stink even more. Anyway, next step to get at the carburetor, which we need to kind of get out of the way, is we need to take this off. And this is the cover for your air filter. So just take that right off. Just a big screw. Now this looks brand new because it is. When I was troubleshooting, I figured, hey, maybe my air filter's clogged because it was old and it was black all the way through. Turns out it was not that, but always good to check. Behind that, you're going to see a pair of 10mm nuts, and then those need to come out. So we'll work on that. Oh wait, are these 8mm? Sorry, these are 8mm. Let me get my 8mm. Okay, now that I have the 8mm, let's try that again. Much better. I had gotten into this before, so I left it loose. So, back it out. And I mean, this is tightening in the plastic, so you don't want it crazy tight anyway. That would be no bueno. Okay, so those are out. And once that comes out, this is going to want to go. But it's going to be hung up on your choke. So set yourself to full choke. And this will come right off. And now that this is out of the way, we can actually see the problem. If you look here, there are two metal lines coming off the carburetor there. If my camera will focus. There we go. And as you can see, one's still there. That's the inlet. Wow, camera. Quit. Let me back it out there. Okay, so you can see there's two lines there. One is the inlet, and that one's okay. One is the return, and that one is gone. It's just shot completely. So that's what needs to be cleaned out, and it would not start because I would try to prime the system with the primer bulb there, and it couldn't stay primed because it was drawing in air whenever it tried to return to the tank because there's nothing there. So We got to clean these out. We need to actually fish them out through the tank. So I grabbed some pliers. They are hose pliers, but I grabbed them because they're long. So we can reach inside the tank and try to pull this out. And make this a little bit easier, we're going to slide the carburetor off and we'll go from there. To get the carburetor off, before we can do that easily, we've got, this is the throttle linkage right here. You'll notice I squeeze the throttle. You can see that moving. So we got to get this off, and the easiest way to do that is to get it in the full throttle position and then hold it there with one hand, and then the other hand let go of the trigger so you get slack in the cable, and then fish it out. It's kind of an S-shaped thing, so it's a little bit of a booger bear. So I don't have my tripod handy. Yeah. So let me put the camera down so I can work on wiggling this little S out, and I'll get back with you. I lied. I have my tripod. So let's see what we can do here. Okay, so I can tell right off the bat, finger's not going to get it done. We need pliers. The only ones I have at hand are these. Let's see what we can do with them. That actually kind of worked. Holy cow, that worked. Alright, cool. We got it. Now the carburetor should slide right off. I was trying to take the gasket with it. What are we getting caught on? Oh, we're just getting caught on the screw. Alright. I think I'm going to leave that gasket right there, because I suspect if I try to remove it, it's going to tear. And then we're going to have no bueno. Alright, so this fuel line's still okay, obviously. So I'm trying to pull this off. As you can see, there's like this outer cladding, and then there's the inner lining. Interesting. Alright, well, I'm going to start working on this. Let's see. How about we cut it about right there. And I'm going to see if I can't get some other pliers and get this pulled off of the nipple here. Let me clean that up and then bring you back in, see what that looks like. Alright, want to let you see what it's going to look like once we get all the junk cleared off. Remember, the carburetor sits kind of like this, right? So the line that's sticking out below the primer bulb, the metal line, that's going to be the return. So that particular hose doesn't have to be very long. But the intake, which is the one that's further on the left towards the linkages there, that hose has got to be a little bit longer, because we're going to have to put the fuel filters on the other side of that, and it lives inside your fuel tank, and you'll see that when we pull that out here in a minute. But we need a line that's long enough that we put the fuel filter on it, and it can reach to the very bottom of the tank. Slide this over. Very bottom of the tank over here, so no matter what position you're working from on your trimmer, you get fuel in. Alright, so let's take a look inside. Okay. Let me take you off the tripod here. Let's take a look. Okay. So you can see, you see a long line there. That's most likely the one for the fuel filter on it. And then the little stubby sticking out up top is the return. There's probably not much anything to that inside the tank. So let's see if I can get those fished out. Alright, you guys see okay? I'm gonna get this little stubby bit out, or try to. It's literally crumbling in my hands. I may have to get a punch and finish cleaning that out, because there's not like a nipple or anything here. It's just the hose pushing through the tank. That's it. So I may have to get like a pick and kind of pull that apart. I'm gonna reach in here. Alright, I got a good hold of it. Let's see what we get. Okay. So, there is, actually, I take that back. There is a small plastic nipple that I can now see inside the tank. So that little piece I'm gonna have to pop out. I want to actually do this swap properly, I think. But here is the other side of the fuel line. And there's the fuel filter. It's the original one. I don't know if this would signify that it's really disgusting or not, but I did buy a new one, so I'm going to go ahead and replace it. Alright, so we got that out of the way. Okay. Use my super ridiculous pliers here. Kind of get the squeeze on. That didn't work, so let's switch to more conventional pliers that I happen to have on hand. Okay. So this wants to come off kicking and screaming. All right. Said might need to get a pick for this because got to get this clear. And you might be wondering, why don't I take the fuel tank off? And the reason for that is that the fuel tank is it's kind of buried in there, and you have to basically take this whole thing apart to get at the fuel tank. I prefer not to do that. But I do see those plastic nipples, and we're gonna have to figure a way to pop them out to keep this process going, because when you do buy, and I'll show you in a minute, but when you buy replacement hose, it should come with these little inserts that go here in the top of the tank. Alright, let's take a look at the goods. Here's our replacement fuel line. And as you can see, there's actually, they even pre-cut the tips. Bless them. Bless them, for they are saintly. So we've got a lot of line here, way more than we need. And they even were kind enough that, let's see if I can get the camera to focus. There we go. They pre-cut a tip for feeding through the tank once we get those nipples out of the way. So one side you plug in on one side and you feed through, and then you'll plug in on the other side. That's the actual little nipple I was talking about. So you can see it's supposed to point up and down. And if you take a look-sees at what we have poking out of the tank, top's gone. It's like rotted away. So we gotta pull it out and then get it out of the tank and go for it. But with this, what you'll do is you'll feed it in through the top of the tank, and then you reach in with pliers and you pull it out and around. Do what you got to do. That's mainly for the intake line, because your return line only needs to be long enough to kind of poke in the tank, and that's it. You're just returning fuel to the tank. It's the intake that needs to have the ability to slurp up every teeny weeny little bit of fuel that you can. So there's this clear that's available for replacement, and then there's also color. I think the chemical compositions are a little bit different. This is an original Husqvarna part. Unfortunately, oh wait, I do have a part number for you. Sorry. And sorry, I gotta get these out of the way before I lose them. That would be bad. Here's our part number. You can't see because my camera is being horrible. It's 530069599. And then here are the filters. Yes, this is a kit. Do not separate it. So our part number is over here, and it is 530095646. Figured I'd go ahead and buy two because, hey, I may do this again. And also, there's a lot of cross-pollination. This filter should be good for a lot of different doohickeys. So if you have a Husqvarna chainsaw, Poolin, I saw that come up a lot when I was searching for parts. Possibly other makes, models, manufacturers, you could use this filter. So keep that in mind if you're having to do spring maintenance on your gear. So I'm going to figure out how to pop those little plastic inserts out of the tank. I think I'm going to try to shove them up from the bottom. So I'll bring you back when I figure that out. Okay guys, I'm back. And I finally got these out. This is where the two holes are, right? So remember, the one on your left is your longer one. That's the intake. This one on the right, closer to the camera, is your return. And I finally got them out using my right angle pliers. These guys right here. They're an amazing tool when the situation calls for them. So just bloop, popped them right out. After, of course, I got the rust out because the tool was locked up tight with rust. PB Blaster for the win. Open workshop, not for the win. So, alright. We are now at the point where we can do stuff. There's a little bit of junk in the tank. I'll probably use some canned air to blow that out. But now we're at the point where we have to figure out how to take all the goodies we have and turn it into something interesting. So for starters, we know that this length of line was on the bottom of our little plastic insert. So, question number one. How do we... Okay, I guess we do it that way. What we're going to do first is we're going to get a section of line that is going to be about this long. And we'll go ahead and we're going to connect our fuel filter to it. We'll shove it in there. We're going to take one of our plastic inserts, one of our new ones, and we'll put it in on the left here. And then we're going to have to use the pliers and shove it on there. Take care of the bottom half of that. And then we will repeat the process and put like a little nub or something. Maybe not even that. Just put the plastic insert for our return line. So to do that, I don't want to mess with this. This has my nice pretty tip on it. Let's see what else we got over here. Aha, here's another thing we should be cognizant of. It looks like we have two different diameters of fuel line here. We have a bigger one and a smaller one. And I believe the answer there is your intake is going to be the big one, and your return is going to be the small one. So keep that in mind when you are preparing to take care of all this. And it could also be that this is a multi-unit repair kit for hose, so there's a couple different sizes in here. That could also very well be. Let's compare, stare and compare. That probably will work. That's kind of skinny. Let's check this one. Yeah. So we've got two bigger pieces that'll work. This one does not have a pre-cut tip on it, so I will go ahead and I will cut on this one. So we will get things lined up here. About right there, so we'll put it about right there. So we will put that where my thumb is. Then we'll go ahead and make a cut. And as you can see, if we mess up, we got plenty of extra line to do work this with. All right. So I'm going to go with the flow here because I want to take this end since it's got the curl to it and have that go up to my little plastic insert. Meanwhile, can we get this on here? And the answer is yes. Now notice we do have a barb there, right? So you want to push your line down past the barb. That's to help keep the line on in operation. So we're going to kind of wiggle, jiggle. We're going to get it pushed past. There we go. So we are past the barb. All right. See, we can't shove this any further on. All right. I think that will work quite nicely. So then that's going to get inserted in the tank. And then I'll take this end and try to connect it to that. That's what we're going to do. It'll be fun. So I need to find where I put my brand new inserts. Let me go ponder on that for a little bit and I'll bring you back. Change of plans, guys. I had a brainwave on how I need to do this. So we're going to take, this is our piece with the pre-cut tip. We're going to go ahead and feed that through on the intake side. And it'd be nice to get these studs out of the way. But alas, it shall not be. So I guess what I'm going to do is take my pliers and give it some authority. Try to shove it down there. But carefully, because if you bang it around too hard, you potentially are going to tear your fuel line, and we don't want that. Alright, we look in there. Alright, oh, I can grab that. Alright, probably not going to be able to see this. I'm having to look from kind of a weird angle to get a grab on it. Have it. Oh, I had a piece of it. Yeah, this is gonna be one of those kind of feel your way through it things. You gotta take your tools and work it. Kind of tempted to maybe hit it with some PB blasters, see if I can't lubricate a little bit. I think the main reason we're not going anywhere is because it's hit the section of line that is not cut. Yeah, let's see. So you actually kind of wanna I can feel it, but I'm still basically doing this blind. Ooh, may have it. Okay, I got it further now. It's much easier to see. I can get a good piece of it now. Yeah, I can actually legitimately see it now. Ooh, look at that. We got it. Alright. So we're gonna get that through a ways. Like that. You may be wondering, well, what are you gonna do now? Well, we're going to do now is, which way do I want to do this? Because what I figured out was that these little plastic inserts, they don't fit snug in at all. They just kind of sit there. So what I was thinking is, yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that this is long enough. And we actually can kind of check that. Yeah, we got plenty of length. In fact, we can cut a little bit off. Maybe about right. There. So what we'll do is this will push back in and we'll sling it around so it's sitting in the bottom of the tank. This is where the fuel filter is going to go. And then the other end here, we'll snip it and then we'll shove the little plastic insert in there and we'll keep pulling this forward, get that seated, and then we'll kind of gauge how much length we need for the carburetor and we'll snip that and then we'll be good on the intake side. And then we'll go take a look-see at the return side and see what we got to do there. That's going to be a lot simpler, but it's kind of the same idea. Is we just need a tiny bit of fuel line to hold that little insert in place so it doesn't whiz out fuel as we're using the trimmer. Yeah, kind of digging this, so let's work on that. Okay, we need enough here that we can put pliers on it, so kind of like that. And I'm going to cut it a little bit high, kind of up here. And then you get two inserts that come with the kit, and the longer one with more barbs I'm going to put on the intake side because it is more important. If the return side leaks a little bit, you might have a problem when you go to prime it and start it, but it's going to run fine. If the intake side leaks, it'll run lean, and yeah, problems. We don't want that. So we're going to take that, and we're going to take pliers and kind of, we're going to shove it in there. Almost. That looks pretty good. Yeah. All right. So we pretty much have it on there. We're going to kind of push and pull. Try to push and pull this into position. We don't want to pull too hard because we will actually take it off of Wizamahoozer. Get in there. Alright, let me work on this a bit. I'll bring you back. Update. So after a lot of fighting, I've got this partially in, I think as far in as I'm going to get it. And then I've got the other end. And now it's got some of my sweat on it, but it's meant to pull water, so that's okay. So I've got the this set up. So I'm going to turn this around and shove it in the tank. One thing to note, I did cheat a little bit. I used some PB Blaster. That will burn up just fine in the engine when we fire it, so not worried about it. But now we take this and we move it back around, shove it in the tank, kind of do that. Make sure it goes deep, dark corner of the tank. It's actually a little bit on the long side, but that's okay. I'll try it out that way, and if I have issues, all I got to do is just fish it back out of the tank and trim it up a little bit. So not a big deal. Now onwards to our return line. And before we do that, I want to look at the diameters of the lines off the carb and they're the same. So that means I need to use the thicker line, and this skinnier line must be for a different carburetor. All right, so I'm going to start working that up. Same basic deal. We've got, I'm going to put just a teensy weensy little bit of hose sticking into here for the return, and then we'll have to work on plumbing the tops of these, this part up to the carburetor. Okay, update. This time without knocking the tripod over. So you take a look there in the tank. Let's see if I can get it to do what I want it to do. No, that didn't quite work the I wanted, but that works. So the bottom of your screen there, you'll see you can see two fuel lines. There's a really short one, that's the return. And the longer one, that's the intake. So I've gotten that done, kind of perfected the technique, so I didn't have to fight it so hard this time. All right, next up, I'm going to slide the carburetor back on, and then I'm going to do some measuring, figure out how long of a line that we need to go, up to the carburetors, and we'll cut that off, and we'll slide that in, and then put it all back together, put some gas in it, and we will see if she starts. Okay, so I've got line back on the carburetor side, and I have, you can zoom in here, I have trimmed a rough length that I'm going to try to get on these inserts, these nipples for the tank side. So I think my plan is I'll get these inserted, and hopefully I leave enough length that I can slide the carburetor back on, and that when all is said and done, that the lines don't kink. If they kink, that means I need to make them longer, twist them, something, because obviously fuel can't flow. It's kinked up. So let's give her a try. Okay, as you can see, after much struggling, I've got the lines ran. Now, I don't have a magic bullet on how to make this work. I basically cut them long enough that I had some wiggle room, and then I just went after it with some pliers and some patience. I was able to get everything connected with the carburetor not seated, and then I had enough tubing here that I was able to slide the carburetor in, and it's all good. What it's actually, I'll lift the unit up so you can see. See, it's just kind of tucked like that, kind of backing around, but not kinked. That's the important part. So with that done, just need to put the throttle linkage back in. It goes across here. Remember, you have to hold it at full throttle, and then just kind of slip the little S hook in. And then once that's done, you just put the air cover, air cleaner cover back on. Put those nuts back in. Put your air filter back in, and at that point, you should be able to put some gas in the tank and give her a try. I'm going to need to get a little bit of compressed air and blow the tank out first, but I am heading that direction. Alright guys, I am running out of time to work on this, so I'm going to get this one shot. I cleaned the junk out and got the cap back on, and that's sealed. So we're going to try to fire it off. Go through the start sequence. So that's 10 purges. 4. Oh yeah, that sounds nice. And there is fuel in the bulb. Full choke. Pull 3 times. Oh yeah, that sounded really nice. Half choke. Pulled start. Have liftoff. That's a beautiful thing. And now we'll have to see how it runs over time to see if I got the lines in the wrong spot or they're getting too close to the heat source, stuff like that. Time will tell. Alright guys, I am running out of time to work on this, so I'm going to give this one shot. I cleaned the junk out and got the cap back on, and that's sealed. So we're going to try to fire it off. Go through the start sequence. So that's 10 purges. 4. Oh yeah, that sounds nice. And there is fuel in the bulb. Full choke. Pull 3 times. Oh yeah, that sounded really nice. Half choke. Pulled start. We have liftoff. Woohoo! That's a beautiful thing. And now we'll have to see how it runs over time to see if I got the lines in the wrong spot or they're getting too close to a heat source, stuff like that. Time will tell. Alright guys, that is another successful repair. That's going to do it for this video, which was a fuel line and fuel filter replacement for my Husqvarna 128 LD trimmer. Please leave a comment if you found this useful, or you just have a general question. I'm pretty receptive and quick on answering stuff. Also, please like, share, and subscribe. And remember, I make the mistakes so that you don't have to. I'll see you guys next episode.